Hi.
Hi. Happy hump day.
How are you?
Good. Very good. I'm trying to think what exciting. What's exciting? Oh, well, coming up, I am gonna, for the first time ever, celebrate. It's not really a day to celebrate, but anyway, the racing day. What's it called?
What is
Melbourne Cup
Day.
Melbourne Cup Day. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never bothered. Basically, it's just a horse race, famous horse race, spring carnival. I don't know if it's almost like the launch of the racing season almost. And it's a big deal in Australia, mostly in Victoria, mostly in Melbourne. So much so that they get a public holiday there.
They do
get a public holiday for this day.
Yeah.
Now, I apologize in advance if I am unfamiliar with the history and it has some deeper meaning. But as far as I know, it's just about horse racing. Launching.
As far as I know, that's what it's about. But
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
Nothing more significant than that. But they get a public holiday, and everywhere in Australia, even if you're not in Victoria, everybody celebrates. They have lunches. They do things in works and offices. People get dressed up. Some people take days off and go to fancy, elaborate lunches. And I have never ever partaken in that, other than being in a workplace.
In work.
Other than being in work,
you know,
wearing a fascinator to work, that kind of thing. Other than in work, go down, watch the race, go back, have a yay, and then go back up and do work. But I'm actually taking the day off.
Yeah.
I'm gonna celebrate.
Wow.
But really, it's mostly a treat to me to have a break and just relax and get dressed up. It's nice to get dressed up sometimes.
Yes, 100%. I do like the dressing up.
I do like get dressed up sometimes. I just like it. It's nice. It's like when you're a kid. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I loved dressing up. Put your mum's heels on, walking around in the heels that didn't fit your feet. Love dressing up. Fancy. It's fun. And it's not really changed. Remember, we used to go to lots of fancy dress parties, but I haven't done that for years.
I know, it was a lot. Yeah, I didn't really do that much fancy dress until I met you guys. You guys did it so well.
We did, didn't we?
Oh my gosh.
And we say that like it's in the past. We should do it again. We should have fancy dress again. Maybe my next birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Being way too I don't want to say it was just I was just gonna say when we do fancy dress, it's just on another level. So
it is on another level.
So yes, it might be time to climb up to that level again.
Yeah, we need to get to the level again. It's always been fun. Yeah. But what have you been doing? What's been going on for you? You're going to Thailand? Is it?
Yeah, going to Thailand. Yes, Bangkok for the first time. So exciting. But yeah, Diwali was on.
Oh, Diwali! Oh, did you have lots of sweets?
I did. Yes, I still have sweets. So which lasts forever, but it was great. Obviously.
What's your favorite sweet?
Oh, look, I actually like nimkis the best, and they're not sweet, they're salty, you know.
Nimki.
Nimkis. They're like crunchy things that you eat. My mates other sweets, but Diwali, it's just so many sweets that actually the salty stuff stands out more. So it's nice to do that. But I think I like the ritual of like cooking with my mom and stuff. You know, just and stuff. We don't do it at the level we used to do it, of course. And then because you used to have to clean for Diwali as well, like the whole house, like wipe down the walls and everything. It was like such a production. But mom doesn't really do that as much anymore. So you could actually just have fun making the sweets and eating the sweets. And it doesn't have to come with that added burden of like cleaning your entire life.
No. And did you say it's like one of the biggest Hindu festivals?
It is, yeah. It's like the New Year. So I mean, it would be awesome to go and see it in India, I think, because it would be on steroids, you know. Because it's pretty big in Fiji as well. Like
Right.
it's the holiday, and yeah, so it's pretty nice. But I reckon India would be huge, and I want to do Holi in India. I think that would be awesome.
Do what in India?
Holi, you know, the festival of colors. You know, when people
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I reckon we would all love doing that in
That
India. I think
looks
that would be-
awesome.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. So we should put that on our bucket
We should
list.
put that on our bucket list. Absolutely. Love to do that.
Yeah.
So it's me. I'm going first today, aren't I?
Yeah.
With our story.
Hmm.
This is really interesting, and I've seen so much research on this, but I'll talk about it in a minute. But the title of this news article is "My Ethnicity Helped Me Get a Job." Is that a good thing?
Hmm.
I always include my mother's maiden name on my resume. It gives me a better chance as a friend with an Asian mother and white father.
Hmm.
Diversity is on trend.
Hmm.
I've seen my manager ignore applications with European names.
Hmm.
That's not a fair go, is it? Getting a leg up because of ethnicity. Landing a job is already hard as it is. Endless applications, interviews, and rejections. There are tricks to being noticed by employers, messaging a friend in the industry on LinkedIn, using school connections, asking relatives for a summer gig, dolling up the resume so it floats to the top. Team player? Sure. Skilled at Excel? Why not? But when a candidate ticks the culturally and linguistically diverse box, suddenly meritocracy is dead. They're cheating the system. They're stealing a job from someone more qualified. The trend of diversity hiring has come out a convenient time in my career, the beginning. I got my start in newsrooms through a Media Diversity Australia placement program for culturally and linguistically diverse students aimed at increasing minority visibility in Australian newsrooms. With notable exceptions, the Australian media is overwhelmingly white, as was the rest of my university cohort, so I applied, despite my unease. However, soon after I was accepted, guilt began to snowball. Although the program involved rigorous interviews, I wondered if I deserved to be rewarded for attributes outside my control. Why do I deserve special treatment? But when I joined the workforce, I noticed there's not always a fair go. In recruiting and promoting, managers can often choose someone who reflects their ideals, their politics and culture. I saw a limited variety of ethnicities reflected in the industry, particularly in leading roles. Even if managers aren't consciously discriminating in the hiring process, the whiteness of most newsrooms is self-evident. When 51.5% of Australians are first or second generation migrants, that is a problem. To address this disparity, some organisations are adopting diversity hiring initiatives. It's good news for my career, but it has led to many uncomfortable conversations. After ticking the diversity box in an application, I was surprised when it was brought up in a job interview. I felt ashamed and pressured to prove I was more than a diversity hire. Don't worry, I won't be the token Arab of the office, I said, laughing nervously. I wanted to be hired because I'm a hard worker, not become a signpost of virtue signalling. Oh, that's ridiculous. This sort of program doesn't need to exist, a man said after finding out how I got my start in the industry. The most qualified person should get the job. You're playing the victim. It became exhausting to navigate conversations with people who appeared threatened by moves to increase staff diversity. Why should someone get a role over me just because they wear something on their head? A woman with European background asked, alluding to a Muslim employee. I feel like white men are really struggling to get a job right now. She believed diversification of the workforce meant jobs were being stolen from people more deserving. This invalidates marginalised people's talents that otherwise would go untapped, given that they are not privy to the opportunities afforded to many other people. This resentment has at times led me to downplay my ethnicity for fear of confrontation, when I should be advocating my unique perspective. When a team is culturally rich, whether that be in parliament, a law firm, or a newsroom, innovation and compassion are stimulated. When Brooke Boney, a Gamilaroi Gomeroi woman and Channel 9 presenter, said on the Today Show, I can't separate the 26th of January from the fact that my brothers are more likely to go to jail than they are to school.
Wow.
She's obviously a First Nations Australian lady. It was powerful. Her personal voice struck a chord and started a national conversation. Similarly, with our most diverse federal parliament yet, most Australians might feel less disillusioned or distrustful of the government because they're seeing themselves and their issues represented. The green diversity tick is necessary. I'm willing to cope with the downsides of affirmative action because of the opportunities I've been granted. I've worked hard to make the best of them. What would feel worse than guilt over being a diversity hire is not being given a chance at all. Getting into journalism is no mean feat. Succeeding once you're there is a greater challenge. I took an opportunity and built a career. That's a positive outcome that likely wouldn't have happened without the program. And for that, I shouldn't have to apologize. There you go. Oh, wow. To me, this is so much here.
Yes. But yeah, I think programs like this are completely necessary. Because it's not even about talent and all of that, because those people wouldn't have even had a chance. Like, forget about talking about the talent and what they're capable of, whatever. They would never have been interviewed in the first place. So I think for me, it's just about letting these people come in and interview and tell the people hiring about themselves. That's all it is. They're obviously not going to hire someone who doesn't have the skills and can't do the job, but it's letting them through the door, at least to have the conversation. So yeah,
absolutely. And it's kind of, isn't, I remember when I was at college studying to go to university, there was this initiative to get more women in science. So there's, science and engineering actually. And this company came to our college and said, anyway, we want more women in engineering and science. So they went to the sciences subjects to tell this idea, and they had all these initiatives. And one of them was to go and spend a week at the university in the engineering department doing all these really fun activities. And I went. And at that point, I wanted to do medicine. By the time I'd done this week in an engineering department in university, I wanted to be an engineer. I actually started an engineering degree.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I started engineering as a degree. I didn't last long. I lasted a semester. But anyway,
not the point. But yeah.
Not the point. It was this initiative. It was because I loved the I wanted to go to that university, and I just had such a great time. But anyway, but also part of the initiative was to go to like a conference in London, which was kind of like women in engineering thing as well. And it was a big fancy shindig, and going from a small town in the north of England to this big fancy shindig. Basically, I was a diversity, what do you call it?
Yeah.
And I remember being, and this is how I remember feeling. I remember being at this conference, and it was really great, and it was very elaborate. Lots of, I guess, names in the industry, when I wouldn't know that. I just got the feeling. Opportunity, it was networking, had I really understood the idea then, which I had no idea, it was really about networking, getting a mentor, knowing people in the industry, getting you opportunities. Yeah, for university and for placements, because that's what you would be doing anyway. So that was what it was about, but I had no idea that was about. I was going to a fancy party in London. But I did feel weird because I was like, well, once I was like one of the youngest people there, but there was other young people there. Also, I was only black. I felt like I was the only black person there, or very few people of color there.
Yeah.
And definitely there was hardly any women there.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just felt, and I remember feeling slightly uncomfortable and thinking, I'm just here because I'm a woman. Or I'm just here because I'm a black woman. And that doesn't do good things for your self-esteem. And I can see that person's talking about it. He's a man, I think. But the feeling, you feel like an imposter. Imposter syndrome, lots of people experience it. But I think it's a whole nother level when you're a minority.
Yeah.
Because when you have these initiatives, to encourage fairer, more diverse hiring practices, whether it's into courses like women in engineering, science and engineering, whether it's into jobs and industry, then that imposter system can be very, very strong. And especially when you hear things like people going, oh, stealing our jobs, and it's so hard for a white person to get a job, or a white man, or whatever. I'm just like, really?
Yeah, no.
And like you say, they would never even get an interview.
Yeah.
It's true. And then looking at the statistics, I can't remember exactly what they are, but essentially saying that you've got a non-Anglo sounding name, you're applying for jobs, the same qualifications, the same experience. They did an experiment changing the names. What do you think happens?
Yeah, I'm guessing the Anglo names got interviews.
The Anglo names get the interviews. Yeah, exactly. Simply by changing the names.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing we talked about before about that affinity bias, where people like you, more politically, culturally looking like you have that affinity towards them. And that's just a fact. It's a bias that we have. But even like you're saying they wouldn't even get to the door, so we need this. And then they get interviewed. They get an interview, you still got affinity bias in play.
Yeah.
Even if they get an interview.
Yeah.
So I get how uncomfortable positive discrimination is, because I've felt it myself.
Yeah.
It's very uncomfortable, and you have to battle with the feeling of imposter, people's views about whether you have the skill, whether you deserve to be there.
Yeah.
But you probably do. I mean, you probably work very hard to be there. But yeah, it's one of those things. So it's like, I don't like positive discrimination because it has those things associated with it. But how else do you readdress the imbalance?
Yeah. To look at it another way, I don't know, and I don't know much about this, but I've heard about it. But say, for example, in India, you have the caste system, right? And you have the lowest caste, I think, the Dalits, the untouchable, the Dalit. I think they are now. So now I think there are workplaces that are mandated. They have positions for this caste now. It's mandatory to hire someone of that caste because you're trying to positively, impact a group of people that was so negatively impacted before, and you're helping them change their situation. Now they can get proper jobs and try and, break the cycle of poverty and all of that. So if you look at it in that way, it's actually really important. Sometimes I guess it might be tokenistic because you're only hiring one person or something, when there are, I imagine, many more capable people of the same caste. But it's a step that has to be taken, right? And to say something like, oh, you're taking other people's positions when you're hiring from that caste, it sounds ridiculous. So yeah, it's a positive form of discrimination that, I don't know, I think is very necessary to right an imbalance.
Yeah, it's to right an imbalance. I think when you have such an imbalance, it takes almost not an extreme, but a significant, I don't know, critical mass to get anywhere near the balance. And sometimes you might go too far, but it's like this act, but we're already so far apart, and that's why we need.
I don't think we could. I mean, I can't imagine. I don't think I've ever seen a workplace where I've gone, oh, there's not enough white people here. You know what I mean? Even in my industry, that, the health industry is actually very multicultural, because there's lots of people of color, there's lots of, it's very diverse. But not to the point where I'm like, oh, there's not enough white people in this room. I'm still being in rooms where, I'm the only woman, or I'm the only woman of color. So I'm just like, that's not a thing. So, well, hasn't been so far, I don't think.
No.
But, yeah. Well,
no, it's just, it's very, it's one of these topics that I'm like this with inside myself, because I don't like the feeling. Who wants to feel like they don't have the skills and talent, that they're only there because of their ethnicity or
Yeah.
background. Nobody
Or
wants to
even
feel like
having
that.
to try harder than everybody else just because you're that. Like
And that's the whole proving yourself.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, that's that people pleasing, self-worth. Oh,
Yeah.
you could be there all day with
Yes.
those unique problems that it brings up for people,
Yeah.
women as well. And it's the same with, and then we've had that, women have had that because that's where I feel like that's kind of where it started, to get women into things, to level up the gender imbalance.
Yeah.
So I think that's why women suffer from imposter syndrome so much.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons, I believe. But when you think about the reality of how people get work, regardless of what, forget the whole ethnicity culture. It is, my friend, it is. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's who you know. Often it's like who you know.
Yeah.
That's why networking is such a critical part of progressing in your career or field.
Yeah.
Because it's who you know. It's making those connections.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to have diverse.
Yeah.
It not be so monocultural.
Yes.
If your friendships are monocultural and you're not connecting with more diverse people, then that's who you're going to be working with.
Yeah. Actually, I found randomly, I did find an article somewhere that just said, in terms of dating, like if I'm going to date you and your friend group is only like, you have no people of color in your friend group, like it's a bit of a red flag or something. And I was like, oh wow.
I'm like, oh wow. I'm like, I've not got that many friends that are not white. Different cultures and backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, but not. I'd like to address that. So, anybody want to be my friend? I'd like to address that. Not since I'm just trying to think, but it's circumstantial as well.
Yeah.
And I think because I grew up in a white neighborhood, I went to school with only white people.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that my childhood friends are white. I mean, obviously my dad is not white, and then but my dad lived in a different town, and then I would go to visit him, and I visit lots of his friends, mostly black, not all of them, but his friends are mostly black, and they had black children, and I would be friends with them. But we lived too far away to have a long-term connection. Yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Look, even food-wise, I think even in the office, if you have a culturally diverse group of people working together, if you have a potluck, it's just going to be better tasting potluck. You know?
Is that a potluck where everybody brings in food, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Like it just tastes better. So the very basic level, that's what you need.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody's going to bring fairy bread and meat pie. I bring fairy bread, by the way. Otherwise, you can't tell random story. I love entertaining people with that story that I had, in I think it was primary school, where I went over to she wasn't my friend actually, she was a classmate who I had to do a project with, and her mum walked in at one point and was like, right, you ready for tea? And I was like, oh yeah. It was like 5 o'clock, 5:30. I'm like, sounds good. And we all sat around the table. And when we sat down, I'm thinking, this is weird, because why are we sitting down to have tea? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, right? And then she puts a plate of like fish and chips in front of me. And I was like, okay. Because everybody started eating, I was like, all right. So I ate my fish and chips and, whatever. Then I went home and I remember telling my mom this story. I was like, it was so bizarre to her, me just going, like scratching our heads going, what do you mean there was? And I was like, and the biggest thing, there was no tea. Like, I wonder what they did with the tea. Then, of course, realizing that tea was dinner, and I just had dinner at someone's house.
Yeah, that's interesting, because that's exactly what in the UK, that's a thing. Tea time. Yeah, it's nothing to do with tea.
Exactly.
Yeah, tea time was dinner time, and I never even thought about it until I think it was only when I moved here. I don't know why it's different here, but people don't call tea time I think that's why, because people don't use that term here. Tea time is not.
It's not very, they were very, I guess. Yeah, but it was just, and plus they were eating at like 5:30, which I would never do, you know.
Yeah.
I would eat much later. So it just didn't occur that that was dinner, but no, yeah.
Yeah, breakfast, lunch and dinner, but it was tea. Your
Mm.
mum were like, be home for tea.
Yes.
Make sure you're home for your tea.
Oh,
Yeah. So that is, that's, I can understand that. That was very funny.
but
The confusion about why there was no tea.
Yes. Exactly. But yeah, you won't get stories, wonderful stories like that.
Yeah.
But yes, I have another good story.
Yeah.
From the Good News Network. And it's about a towering statue that's unveiled in London in honor of a national hero you probably never heard of. So, alongside Captain James Cook and Winston Churchill, a new statue in London's iconic Southbank honors a British hero not likely known even to the British themselves. So, unsung hero Jo Newby, 52, stands at Southbank in recognition of efforts in the child foster care system and youth special needs soccer. The statue was commissioned by snack bar brand Kind Snacks. The nationwide #MyKindHero search was launched earlier this year to uncover the UK's kindest hero, and Newbie was received nearly 500 heartwarming nominations, led by her husband of 21 years, Chris. The statue stands 4 meters tall on Southbank's observation point and was created using a 3D technology from recycled material. I love this whole 3D printing. I've never seen it, but I want to see it. Sounds cool. It's also surreal. I can't believe it, said Jo. I just get on with my day today and never stop to think about the wider impact that I may be having. All I think about is the children and making sure they feel happy and included and safe. So Jo from East Yorkshire has fostered an astounding 92 children to date over the course of a 2-decade volunteering career. Wow. She went on to adopt a child with additional needs while supporting and caring for her husband, Chris, during his battle with pancreatic cancer. Man, she is the really fun auntie you never knew that you wanted, but you really actually needed, because without her, I have no idea where I would have gone, says Sophie, one of Jo's foster children. She's also co-founder of Barton Inclusive Football Club, Hull.
Hull, yeah.
Oh, right.
It's a place. It's a place.
It's a place. Awesome, great. Consisting of 3 competitive pan-disability football teams for children and young adults in the area, which the coaches say just don't exist anywhere else in the region. So Jo's statue holds 92 balloons with one hand, each symbolizing one child she has fostered, and a pair of children's soccer cleats.
Cleats, yeah.
Yeah, in the other while resting her foot on a soccer ball. I'm so honoured to be chosen as the UK's kind hero, and for my husband Chris to have nominated me without my knowing. The world is so full of sadness and anger, and I just hope that people can see what an impact kindness has on others. To me, Jo is the most amazing, kind and selfless woman in the world. So when I saw #MyKindHero call out, I had to put her forward, said Chris. To have her recognised and identified as UK's kind hero makes me burst with pride. Oh, very sweet.
That's so sweet. And see, I can see there's a photograph of her. Jo Newby. Is it Newbie? Newbie. Yeah. Oh, that's really wonderful.
Kids. That's amazing.
I know. It's incredible. When it says cleats, she's holding like football boots. I don't know why it said cleats. But that's what she's holding in one hand, the balloons in the other. And I think obviously the lady stood next to her is her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. And to me, these are the kind of people that need to be like saints if you're religious. I'm sure she's not perfect, but she's got a lot of love to give, clearly.
Yeah, fostering is a whole other level of, I don't know, kindness, I think. So 92 kids is a lot.
92 kids. And then this whole this that she was it what do you call it?
Pan disability?
Pan disability football team.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. She founded it.
Yeah.
So I guess for
Oh.
children and young adults in the area with a variety of disabilities and abilities. That's amazing. Oh wow, I'm so happy that she got that. That's so incredible. I love the fact we celebrate people. That's what we need to do more of, celebrate more people like that.
Yeah, exactly. Not just the conquerors and the queens or whatever.
I don't think there's that many women statues other than the queen. I don't think there's that many statues of women that we celebrate. I hope that stays like that.
Unless you have those ones where they're almost headless or something, and it's just appreciation of another kind.
I hope that's a permanent thing. That's amazing.
Oh, surely it would be permanent, right?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, if I ever go back, when I go and visit London, I'm going to get a picture taken next to that.
Oh, I can't wait to go back to England. The shopping.
I'm talking of England.
Yeah.
I can't believe that Liz Truss is out after 41 days, 44 days?
44 days. She resigned, right? Which means she still gets the pension.
I know.
Crazy. I think I saw it somewhere that if she claims her pension, and it starts now, it's not from retirement age, it literally starts now. From now till, I think it's like 81 or 89, which is, the standard, age in England for women. She would have received close to like $4 million. For doing a terrible job.
I need to be Prime Minister for like 2 weeks.
I know, right? Me too. How can I make that happen?
But do you know, it just scares me, the people at Prime Minister these days. Back in the day, you felt that there were people with experience and skill, as well as the passion. But at the minute, I just feel like it's people that want power and have no skills.
Yeah.
They just know people.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you get jobs. Who you know.
100%.
And if you think about who the people making those decisions, putting you in those opportunities, there's a lot of white men, I have to say.
Oh yeah. If you look at Boris Johnson's resume, it's appalling. Just even in his the companies he's led and the positions he's done, it's just terrible. And you're like, this man's prime minister.
It's scary, isn't it?
No sense. It really doesn't.
And there's some businesses out there where I think those business leaders, I know they're part of a business, but they would be way better prime ministers.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think my boss would be a way better prime minister. I mean, she'd be affecting change every minute and it's hard to keep up with her, but she'd be way better prime minister. Yeah.
I don't know how we end up. Well, really, I don't know how we end up here, but I guess it's like people. It's this whole people that say I'm not political. I just think, really, everybody's political because either that or you're dead. You don't have an opinion on anything. You don't care about your life and what happens to you.
Yeah.
So you have to be political in that way.
But I also think politics isn't set up for hardworking, honest people because it grinds you down so much. I genuinely think because you spend half your time AOC and stuff in the US, they spend half their time defending themselves against people who think they're imposters and stuff and don't deserve to be there. Diversity hires and stuff like that. They spend half their time answering stupid questions, So yeah, I can imagine if you're a good person and you want to be in politics.
It's not easy. I just see you need a lot of connections, a lot of funding. Yeah. I just was looking before and there was all these candidates for the November elections, like candidate. What else do they have? What do they call it? Not the House of Commons, that's UK. What?
Oh, here?
No, in America.
Oh. Yeah.
whatever they call it,
Yeah.
governors and whatever they have in the Senate. Is it the Senate?
Yes. Yeah, maybe the Senate.
But yeah, there was a lot of women, diverse, all different backgrounds, sexual orientation, gender, going for positions, which is great. But I don't know, it's not easy.
No.
Because it's not just a matter of being popular in your own city or state.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but it's been popular. People have the money because they need funding. Campaigns need to be funded.
I feel like it's ridiculous that people can buy, you know, votes, buy your vote or buy the candidate.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, you're going to nominate, you give money to a worthy cause, whether it's charity, blah, 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 because you believe in that principle, you believe in that cause. It's the same. I mean, it isn't like that's part of it, isn't it? You're going to donate money because you believe in this person's ideals and values.
Yeah. That's the good way of looking
even
at
if
it.
the ideals and values is that the rich need to be richer.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as climate change. They're ideals and values that people hold. So if you agree with that, you're going to give them money, aren't you?
Yeah. I don't know.
Just
there has to be a better way of doing it instead of that.
All right. Well, when you've thought of it, share. Thought of it, share. Because the alternatives are dictatorships or communism.
You know what I would love? What? I would love just like, say you're voting for Baulkham Hills mayor or something, whatever the hell it is, right? MP, member of parliament. And you just go around and you look at, I don't know, certain things. Maybe they haven't got a criminal record.
You look at certain things, what do you mean?
Yeah, like a person that doesn't have criminal records, right?
Right.
Okay. All in a room or something. And then you go, right, you get to be mayor. And then that person has to do it. You know what I mean?
No, I don't know what you mean.
That would be like cool. Because then you'd be like, and then you do the same with the prime minister. You'd be like, you over there on the street or whatever.
Oh, you just go out into the world and you look at people, you're just looking at people who've got and a good experience.
Exactly.
And you just say, right, you have to be prime minister. Yeah,
like
is that what you mean?
And all the whatever, right? You put them all in they're not psychopaths. Yeah. They're like good people and they have good homes, they have a good credit score, they haven't killed their parents or, murdered their children or anything like that. And you go, right, you over there, you need to be prime minister. And you're like, you have to do it for 2 years or whatever, 3 years. And you're like, like a little.
And how would you feel if somebody said you have to be prime minister?
Yeah, I'd be pissed, but because I feel like I had other things I wanted to do with my life. But you know what I mean? I feel like that would be like more equitable and more like whatever. Yeah, I think so. And I think the average person, generally speaking, has good kindness and whatever, and wouldn't try and screw the country. Whereas I feel like some people in power actually go around trying to screw the country, like burn it to the ground or something. Yeah. Oh, so that's my idea.
All right, that's a good idea, that actually.
Yeah.
I think my dog barking.
Yeah, it could be like the national award, like that what we just talked about, the tissue thing. I mean, the statue thing, right? I don't know what I'm saying. Everybody like nominates someone, like a good person.
Oh, like everybody nominates someone to be prime minister.
That's a better idea. Yeah, because you go, I know Tracy, she's a great person. She would make a great prime minister. So you put her name in the hat.
Yeah, but she didn't want to be prime minister.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't matter. And you sell it because you're like, hey, at least you get a pension afterwards. So you do a good job and then you'll get a pension afterwards.
But that is kind of how it works now.
Yeah, I don't think so, because people don't have, you don't even have to be bloody qualified. Like, you just have to come from the right place. I don't think Boris Johnson is qualified.
Because I ever think about, sorry, my dog is driving me nuts. If you think about, I'm going to have to put him in the room. Doesn't stop barking. If you think about the last elections, local elections, it was all them campaigning, you getting to know them, but most of the supporters would be people they knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Like canvassing on their behalf. You're too funny. All right, we need to move on because it's been
Yes.
too long. Okay.
Let's end on that note. People who are hot should be in public office.
Yeah.
Because
In
even as
Meenal's
they burn the
opinion.
country down, you can at least have something nice to look at.
In Meenal's opinion. Okay. All right. So do what would you do?
Yes.
Okay, we can do a what would you do, right? So Meenal,
Mm.
a white co-worker says to a newly hired woman of color, and this could be newly hired Asian person, newly hired minority person, could be any.
Mm.
Your name is really hard to pronounce. Do you go by something else? What would you do?
Ah, jeez. Yeah. Actually, this is so hypocritical because obviously.
Let's hear the hypocritical. I like the hypocritical.
Because the guy I'm seeing, according to him, I can't pronounce his name very well. So I call him by, his initials, which is fine because it works. But I think that's bullshit, to be honest. I think you can learn, if you can learn to pronounce Daenerys Targaryen.
Daenerys Targaryen. Is that on the new Game of Thrones thing?
No, isn't she Khaleesi? Isn't that Khaleesi?
I don't know. Well, still Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, if you can learn those Dothraki names and whatever, like surely you can learn a name. I think you just gotta learn how to pronounce it. So I think we just start off with, no, you can't call me Bob. I'm sorry, but no, that's not gonna work. And you're just gonna have to make an effort to pronounce my name.
Yeah.
And do the best that you can.
Yeah. I think if people are trying, I don't care if they get it wrong, as long as they're trying.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think it helps if you should be helping people along. I do believe that, because lots of people can't say my name. And so, and especially the way I want it said, because I think there are different ways of pronouncing it. And so if you even want your name said in a different way, you're going to have to help people out and tell them, what's the easiest way. Like Meenal, it is like Meenal, but with an M. That's fine. So then people know, and it's easier, or however, it is, because it's a lazy excuse.
I don't know. I'm with you. I think you just do your best to pronounce their name. It's practice, right?
Yeah.
And I actually always ask people when it's clear that they have two names. So when they say, "Oh, my name's John," and then I see on an official document or something that their name is something else.
Yes.
And I read that name and think, well, that's an easy name to pronounce. Why are you calling yourself John? And they go, oh, it's just easier.
Yeah, exactly.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Especially with Asian names.
Yes.
I was like, really? I don't think your name is difficult to pronounce at all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a two-way thing here. You've got to give people the chance. Not assume that people can't spell your name or say your name, pronounce your name.
Yeah.
And then just, let's get used to it. Help people. Give them a helping hand with that.
Yes.
But what would you say say this was your co-worker? What would you say to them?
No, I understand I get names wrong all the time, mostly because I forget what your name is. But you just got to try harder. I was like, no, I think you need to try and pronounce the name. And if you're really, really stressed about it, ask them and say it back, and then say it back.
And actually, something I used to do at work, because I worked, because I was a regional manager, I worked with lots of Asian countries, and not even just Asian countries. Russia and Turkey were in there as well. And actually, I struggled most with the Turkish names.
Yeah.
Because the Turkish names, if I read them with an English eye, they were not said how they were written. So what I used to do is I used to ask them, how do you say your name? And I was used to write it in English as it sounded to me. And then I would put it in brackets for me personally, how you spelled the name. So I always spelled the name right. And then how it sounded out to me if I was saying it. That's what I used to do to help me say their names correctly. Like, for example, there was a lady called Burju. Burju?
Burju?
She's Turkish. And it was spelled in a way that wasn't, it's a bit like the Irish name thing. I wouldn't have pronounced it like that. So I had to spell it a different way for me, so that I could say it.
Yeah.
Her name was Burju. But it was spelled a completely different way.
And just for for all us ethnics out there, do have patience with people who are of ethnic background but grew up somewhere else. So we'll butcher your name, even though I should know how to say it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, have patience with other people from the same ethnic backgrounds. And like we used to have this name conversation before. Like my surname, I don't particularly think it's difficult to say. It's actually spelled how you say it.
Yeah.
Gandu.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine you could spell it with 2 O's or with an O instead of a U, but it's still pronounced the same.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I can understand misspellings, but I can never understand how you can't say it. Gandu. I had it the other day. It's Tracy Gandu. And then I did, I couldn't even tell you. It was just, what? How did you get that? Anyway, so why it matters. Well, this statement is disrespectful because it suggests that some names, and therefore people, are not worth taking the time to get to know.
Yeah.
It can also make the new hire feel like an outsider, signaling that she has to change who she is in order to fit in at work. Well, he or she, because I've seen it so many times. So that's why it matters. You could repeat a name, demonstrating that it's not hard to pronounce, or point out to your coworker that it's a sign of respect to pronounce someone's name correctly. You can also explain why it matters, which is it's disrespectful, suggests the names aren't worth taking the time to get to know, which implies they're not either. Your white colleague may be falling into the trap of considering white sounding names as the norm. And therefore not realize how inappropriate their question is. If their own name has always been easy for classmates and colleagues to pronounce, they may never have had their name questioned like this and not understand how it feels. We get a name, because I guess we live here, I get names all the time that may not be so easy to pronounce the first time I hear it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like you have to make an effort.
Yes.
I think there's 2 things though with this, that story we talked about earlier. There's people using Anglo-sounding names on purpose because it gives them more opportunities.
Yes.
And then also because it may be difficult to pronounce the name. There's 2 things behind that.
Yeah.
Could be both, either or.
Either. There you go.
Have you had any names you found difficult to pronounce?
I've had so many names I had difficulty pronouncing. But clearly the person I'm dating right now, I just and I have the most difficult time pronouncing his last name. And he says it's all right. October is the month to pronounce his first name, and then we'll get on to his middle name, and then we'll get on to his last name. So there you go.
What are all the names hard, difficult to pronounce?
Well, he just says I'm not saying it properly.
He needs to be patient with you.
I know, exactly. And sometimes I get it wrong. And then sometimes he's like, oh, now you put the Aussie accent on there. And I'm like,
oh, well, you're Aussie. You're going to say it with an Aussie accent.
Yes.
This is the way it is.
Yes. And he's redoing my friends' names because obviously, some of my friends are of Indian descent and they have Indian names, but we don't pronounce it in the Indian way. So he's like, that's not, it's Amrita. And I'm like, no.
Oh,
no.
Amrita. Instead of Amrita.
No, it's Amrita. It's like
Amrita. See, that's different. That's okay because it's still the essence of the name.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You don't change your name to Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be different. Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Amrita. I mean, I couldn't pronounce it the Indian way either.
Yeah. My mom still says it like that. She'll say Amrita. And I'm like,
yeah, I can't. But I mean, getting it very close, I think is good enough.
Yes. Or when you in Bridgerton and they're like Miss Sharma. No, they're like Miss Sharma or something. I'm like, what are they trying to say? And then you're like, oh, Sharma.
Sharma.
Yeah, it's Sharma. So, but yeah, so I get why that happens.
Okay. All right. I think we've nabbed on a bit long.
Yes.
It's good talking to you as usual.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to hear from other people how they handle the name pronunciation, if that's been a problem in the past with them. Love to hear how they handle that. Do they just change their name to something Anglo, or if they use their name, or if you've got any funny stories around it, that would be even better.
Yes.
I would love to hear. All right, until next time, see you soon. Bye.
Bye.